21. Signed. Committee Room 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 21, 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 signed. Committee Room 21. 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 Signed.
So, welcome members, a few minutes late. I welcome everybody to the 17th meeting of the Committee for Finance in the 22 to 27 mandate. Members, the committee meeting will be recorded and broadcast throughout Parliament buildings and online. Members and those in the public gallery, you're welcome to use mobile devices so long as they are muted or in airplane mode, and you can connect to Assembly Wi-Fi. Password details can be found on gallery rules. Agenda item 1, apologies. We have no apologies, but we do have 2 members joining us via Zoom. So we also would like to welcome Gethin McGeehan, who is joining us on work experience from Friends School in Lisburn. Hi Gethin, welcome. Good to have you. I have a member of my team is a Friends alumni, so good to have you. Agenda item 2 is declaration of interests. So members, you're obliged to declare any relevant interest at the start of each meeting. Does any member have a relevant interest to declare?
I just need to declare one, but it will be coming up in closed session. But it's a particular issue that is I will not make comment on because it's
we
constituency matter.
Highlight that again on the other side of the closed session.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. No other members wish to declare, that's fine. Agenda item 3 is chairperson's business. So 3.1, clerking and members support advice regarding Zoom attendance at committee meetings. Members, at page 6 of your meeting pack, the Clerking and Members Support Office has provided some updated guidance to members in relation to joining committee meetings via Zoom. Members are advised they should not share personalised Zoom links due to security features in Zoom, and that laptops and devices should be muted during committee proceedings. So please also give committee staff as much notice as possible if you wish to join a meeting remotely via Zoom. That's to note unless anyone wants to comment on that. Okay. The next item is draft minutes of our last meeting. So members, page 8 of the meeting pack are minutes of our meeting on June the 5th. If members are content that they are a true reflection of our meeting, I will sign the minutes.
Agreed.
Agreed, okay. Agenda item 5 is matters arising. Minister of Finance has sent us, we have been sent the statement on the North-South Ministerial Council the 22nd meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council on Special EU Programmes Sectoral Format at page 18 of the meeting pack. That has been included in your meeting pack, and it was made in plenary on Monday 10th of June. So that's for members to note.
Chair, can I raise something on
yes,
that?
Indeed.
It was a question I asked the Minister at the time. She couldn't answer it me, and she has committed to writing to me, but I do think it might be important for the Finance Committee to also correspond, and that is the fact that the 2021 annual report and accounts have been certified by the Controller and Auditors General in both jurisdictions, have been laid before the Houses of Oireachtas but not laid before the Northern Ireland Assembly not laid before the Northern Ireland Assembly. I'd asked her why that was the case, and also the fact why the 2022 and this affects 23 also, the draft accounts are currently awaiting certification by the Controller and Auditor General. And I asked the question, why the wait? Why is it taking so long? There might be a plausible and innocent explanation as to why, but it would be good that this committee would find out.
Okay, I'm content that would be right, unless any members are content. And also bring in Deputy Chair.
Yeah, and just to add to that, if we could ask for an estimated date of when they would be certified and laid, in case there is any particular reason for it, because in the statement, she's approving increased spend there, and if there's a particular reason why we've got a 2-year backlog in those accounts, yet we're approving extra spend, it would be quite a risk, because other accounts across the civil service were able to be laid appropriately throughout the time that the Assembly wasn't sitting.
I'm happy to ask those questions unless there's any concerns.
Yeah.
Okay. Content. The next item is 5.2, which is the arbitration bill, legislative consent motion. Members on page 22 of the meeting pack. You'll find this item. At the meeting of the 22nd of May, the committee agreed to request a briefing note from the Department on a proposed legislative consent motion in relation to the arbitration bill due to potential implications for civil law reform which falls within DOF remit. Officials have advised that due to the forthcoming UK election, the bill has fallen and the SLEM will not progress. Should a bill be considered in the future, an update will be forthcoming. I think that is purely for, at this stage, academic, historical interest, unless any member wishes to raise an issue. Okay. Now, the next item is 5.3, which is breakdown of financial transactions. Capital, at page 23 of the pack, following a briefing from officials on the draft executive budget for 24-25, members requested a breakdown of financial transactions capital spent and unspent, and handed back over the last number of years. So people can see that. It's in the table, which is at page 23. Does any member wish to come in on that? Jerry, did you wish to come in? No?
I thought I saw his hand go up.
No. If no member wishes to come in, obviously we know there's a perennial desire on the part of the department to reduce the number of unallocated or unspent financial transactions capital. It is a bit more complicated than that because of the nature of financial transactions capital. There are certain requirements that need to be met, but it is really important. We would obviously like to be kept abreast of that as it develops within the department. And I know, for example, in the legislative programme, one of the bills will give a public body, but I now have forgotten which one, the power to use financial transactions capital. I've forgotten anyway, but that's a positive sign. Obviously, I would be keen to see others where it's relevant. Okay, item 5.4 is the Public Sector Transformation Board. So members, at page 25 of the meeting pack, you will see this item. Following discussions at the last 2 committee meetings, the department has provided an update on the Public Sector Transformation Board. Members had requested information on the timescale, scope and membership of the board. Following comments from the Minister during topical questions on the 4th of June, members also requested information on the terms of reference, composition and criteria for membership of the board. The update provides detail on the criteria for membership of the board, as well as information on the interim Public Sector Transformation Board. The Executive agreed to an establishment of an interim board on the 9th of May, and the board held its first meeting on the 21st of May, with these due to be returned on the 21st of May. Departments were asked for transformation proposals on the 31st of May, with these due to be returned by Friday 14th of June, i.e. in 2 days' time. An oral briefing on this issue had been scheduled for the 3rd of July, which is reflected in the forward work programme. However, since the pack was issued, the department has indicated that an official is on leave and unable to attend on that date. The briefing has been moved forward to the 26th of June. So on this, obviously happy to take any comments from members. I'm quite concerned that this is kind of hurtled forward without us being given any information. It was not made public to us. That it was not made public, nor was it indicated to the committee. I believe until the information was asked for, that an interim Public Sector Transformation Board had been agreed. I think given we got written ministerial and indeed oral statements, I think, on the fiscal framework, I don't think it is acceptable that we were not told that terms of reference and an interim PSTB were appointed. I just don't think that's good practice, to be honest. I think it's really disappointing, and I think we should indicate that. We will have the opportunity, and we do have a relevant official today who we might be able to raise it with, but we will have a specific briefing on it on the 26th of June. But I would register my genuine displeasure and disapproval of the fact that we were not told about any of these developments. I think it's given the statutory role of this committee to scrutinise things, and given the fact that we've got lots of other been given lots of other things, some of which was more routine and a bit less urgent than this. I think it's disappointing that we were not given this information until we pushed for it. Would anyone else like to come in?
Yes, please, Chair. Yeah, I fully echo your comments. I mean, we were told that this was in the process of being formed and they were going to form an interim board. We're not told that it already sort of got into position. I mean, and it's already looking at sort of the use of £235 million of ring-fence funding. I mean, at which stage were we going to be given any visibility at all of what's going on and how this has been done? This is following a pattern, Chair. And we've already heard about sort of issues to do with HR and moving of senior people around without sort of being informed or kept properly informed of many of the issues as well. We've already seen through some of the evidence that's been given in over the COVID inquiry about some of the approaches to sort of RHI issues that we're supposed to be dealt with as well. This is just another example of nobody following due process. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever why we wouldn't have been informed of what was going on, because this is a demonstration of appropriate scrutiny. How can we scrutinise something we don't know anything about?
Would any other member like to come in?
Just like this is I think you're making a bit of a mountain out of a molehill here, to be honest, and taking it to the extreme. It's an interim board, albeit yes, you can say okay, you got a bit of forewarning, but you've got it now. You've got the information. The Minister did say that she would furnish further information once the board is put on a more permanent footing, which it says here in the report. So I think it's good that the board's been established, because that's what we've been asking for. And now to get them to get on with their work, but of course we're going to get a briefing on it. We'll get more of an update, and I think it'll be good going forward just to ask for updates on an intervening period as they start to develop their programme of work, and certainly when it's put on a more formal footing as well. But I think it is good that there's an interim board that's been established. I think the likes of what do you call her name's just Frances Ruan and stuff, I mean, is well respected in this field, and I think just let them get on with the initial work, and then of course to keep us updated.
Any other members wish to come in? No? Deputy Chair?
I think somewhere in the middle of all of that, it is appropriate, because I do agree with you that we shouldn't have had to find out about it on the floor to have to ask the questions to get it, and I do think it's important to take that note. But I do concur with what Deirdre's saying there, that it's good to know it now and go forward, but I do think that it would be important to make the note.
So I would, first of all, I would endorse the praise for the ability of people like Frances Ruan. I do, however, think it's not, I don't think there's anything unreasonable about saying that we should have been given proper briefing. I think the Assembly should have been told that an interim board had been appointed. The reason I think that is because they aren't just public appointments. Technically, they're not public appointments in the sense that they don't obviously they don't go through a formal public appointments process, it would appear, but they are highly important. One of them is the Permanent Secretary of the Northern Ireland Office, the other is the head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service. They are advising on public sector transformation, which is at the base of what this executive is going to be doing, we are told, in terms of particularly the health service, but other public services. It's a fundamental part of the package that was agreed with the UK government at the beginning of the year. So I do think it's disappointing and not good practice that we weren't told. Can I suggest that we write to the department and ask to, obviously we are getting an oral briefing on the 26th.
On the 26th, yeah.
Yeah, can I suggest that we get an update on transformation proposals with those which are being returned on the 14th of June, even if what they're giving us is a process update and they don't give us an update on what's been agreed. I accept they may not wish to do that, but I think it's, given that we've had to ask for the previous ones, I'm not comfortable that we should just be relaxed and say, well, I don't think we should be like cloyingly grateful for being given something after we have to chase and press for it. I don't think that's the role of the Scrutiny Committee, to be bluntly honest. Okay, unless any people are...
Do members want to make a request for when the final board's in place that we seek a briefing? It means we can get that.
I think we should definitely.
To the department, and
people,
it can be scheduled when it the board's there.
And I think that it clearly sounds like the Public Sector Transformation Board have an important, not just an important role, they're going to have a lot of power. I also think there's a hint here of devolution being qualified, mitigated, possibly even undermined with the Permanent Secretary of the Northern Ireland Office getting effective sign-off or scrutiny over devolved things. Our job is as a scrutiny committee in a devolved legislature. We can't simply wave this stuff through. So I am very keen that we are robust with the department and robust about being asked about what this board is doing, what information is being asked from departments, and what it means. I think that is, we would be negligent, frankly, in our duties were we not asking these questions, and I think it is deeply, deeply disappointing that we had to press and harry to get this information. I'm not going to be relaxed and kind of grateful for simply being told basic information. Okay. Yes, Steve Aiken.
The interesting one about having a British government representative on the Transformation Board, it might be useful if we were to see what the formal terms of reference were and why that has been placed on that.
I mean, I think the terms of reference are kind of in that briefing that we have already.
It was part of the general high-level terms of reference when they through the executive restoration package settlement. There would be representatives from UKG, the executive, and then others with additional expertise being brought in as and when.
Can I just add as well that the Transformation Board, yes, they do bring forward recommendations, but it's the executive who will make decisions on what goes forward. So I think it's just important to qualify that it won't be the board, it will be the executive who will make these decisions.
That's a fair enough point, but they obviously do have a role. They're designed to have some role. Okay, if members are happy enough, we will also forward this to other committees, and I think other committees need to be aware of the role of the PSTB. It is probably the bit of the executive restoration package which has been least discussed thus far, for better or worse. I think for worse, because of the fact that it hasn't been discussed properly. I think other statutory committees, probably particularly including the Health Department for obvious reasons, but others will want to be aware of it. Okay. Yes.
It has been. Well, I know on justice it's been discussed. We've been asking what transformation projects are going forward.
Specifically the role of the PSTB.
Discussed yesterday on an APG in terms of mental health and suicide. I actually asked the question. So now that may not be a formal format across the board the way there is even with the budgets and stuff, so we could maybe ask all the committees, but I know there's some level of discussion.
This is on the PSTB specifically, on the actual board.
Well, in terms of
transformation
proposals that departments are putting forward, I know some committees have been asking for information.
Not every MLA is as well briefed and effective as you, to say. But anyway,
well, it's not just me, there's others.
Okay. So we will forward that to the committees. Okay, next item is response to the Committee of Economy on City and Growth Deals and early phasing of support. Members, at page 28, the Department of Finance has provided more information to the Committee for Economy regarding phasing and business case sign-off for City and Growth Deals. This is to note unless any member wishes to raise any comment or say anything at this particular point. Okay. Okay, the next item is Committee for Infrastructure's scrutiny of the draft executive budget 24-25. At page 32 of the meeting pack, the Committee for Infrastructure has written to this committee to outline its scrutiny of budgetary matters within the Department of Infrastructure. A briefing paper supplied by the Department of Infrastructure and Hansard of the evidence session has also been provided. This is to note this correspondence and to agree to add this as an addendum to the committee's report on engagement on the draft executive budget 24-25. Okay, that's to note unless anybody wishes to come in. The next item is 5.7, which is at page 3 of the tabled pack, which is that on the 8th of May we agreed to write to the Minister to get an update on her particular engagement with the Chief Secretary to the Treasury regarding the Executive Restoration Package. The Minister indicates that when she met the CST on 21st of May, they signed the interim fiscal framework which the committee, which members have considered previously, and that is covered in the correspondence back from the Minister. One point that occurred to me would be a piece of information that if the Dallows here I think would be useful for us to establish is how regularly the Joint Exchequer Committee is due to meet, or whether it's on, I know obviously transformation plans are being worked on and there's a plan for, I think, August was the initial time. But is there a kind of regular programme of meetings, or are they just when there is something substantive to discuss or update on? I just think that would be useful to find out. That's to note, unless anybody wishes to ask anything else or raise any other points. Next item is the Assembly Audit Committee and the report on the estimates of the NI Audit Office and NI Public Services Ombudsman 24-25. So members, at page 6 of the tabled pack, the Assembly Audit Committee has published its report on the estimates of the NIAO and NIPSO. These estimates will be included as part of the main estimates. The committee is due to receive a briefing on the main estimates at next week's meeting. So members, that's to note, unless anybody who has a particular burning issue to raise on those. Next item 5.9 is the 17th report of the Examiner of Statutory Rules and includes SR 2024-124, the Whole of Government Accounts Designation of Bodies Order Northern Ireland 2024. Members, that's at page 14 of the table pack. At the meeting last week, the committee agreed that it was content with a statutory rule to enable the Department of Finance to request information from departments and bodies designated and pass that information to HM Treasury for use in the preparation of the Whole of Government Accounts. This agreement was subject to the Examiner's report, which was not available in time for last week's meeting. The Examiner has now reported, and the relevant section can be found at page 16 of the table pack. So that is just to note, and of course, I would add that in the 17th report, she's not drawn any rules. She's not drawn any other rules to the attention of the Assembly, and that includes, by the way, the statutory rule that I just mentioned, the Whole of Government Accounts one. Okay, so that's, unless anybody has any issues with that. Now, members, we are going to move into closed session to
Committee Room 21. Sound. 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 Committee Room 21. Signed. 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 Committee Room 21. Sound. 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 Committee Room 20.
To call members to order. We are going into open session and we're going to hear from officials. I think we are now back in open session.
That's the cameras are back up.
Yeah, okay. So the next agenda item, members, is the consultation on the financial context for revenue raising. We're going to get an oral briefing from departmental officials. There's a clerk's briefing, or clerk's memo at page 135 of the meeting pack, and at page 137 there's a briefing paper on the outcome of the consultation supplied by officials. in advance of this session. Also included for background is the original consultation document and previous departmental correspondence to the committee in this regard. Obviously, just to restate, we did have a briefing and closed session from LPS officials on some of the detailed responses. I don't think there's anything particularly price or commercially sensitive in that briefing, but I would obviously advise members that we did agree that the detailed contents of that paper are embargo, but we can ask, I think, broad questions about the what's being considered. So, welcome to the meeting, Joanne McBurney, who's Joanne, our regular attendee, Deputy Secretary of the Public Spending Directorate, Marianne Smith, Head of Central Expenditure Division, also a regular visitor, and Kerry Smith from Central Expenditure Division. Thank you very much for coming to see us. Would you make an opening statement?
Yep, thank you, Chair. So, as you'll be aware, on the 20th of September 2023, Secretary of State wrote to Permanent Secretaries of Departments directing them to launch public consultations with a view to raising revenue to support budget sustainability. As part of that, he also directed the Department of Finance to publish an overview document setting out the financial context for the consultations. As well as providing the financial context, this document also posed 4 questions. Are there any other revenue-raising options that should be considered? Are there any services or programmes that should be stopped or reduced to divert funding to more critical services? Are there public services that could be delivered in a different way? And are there public services that could be delivered by others, e.g. local government, voluntary and community sector? Or are there other areas in which greater collaboration could deliver better outcomes? This overarching consultation ran from the 11th of October 2023 and completed on the 17th of January 2024. There were 14 responses and a wide range of themes identified. The broad themes have been shared with the committee. Given that people have taken the time to respond, the Finance Minister has committed to considering the responses DOF received. The financial package which accompanied restoration and the subsequent interim fiscal framework has changed the financial context somewhat, with the Executive now funded at 124% relative need in 24-25 and able to plan on that basis going forward. However, significant challenges do remain. As you'll be aware, funding at relative need does not mean that the funding provided is sufficient to deliver the public services we would wish to have. And as the committee will be aware, demand far outstripped the funding available in Budget 24-25. The financial package itself included the need for the Executive to raise an additional $113 million from local income streams. The Finance Minister negotiated the timing of this with the Chief Secretary of the Treasury and secured agreement to this additional income being raised over 24 months instead of 12. This meant that the Finance Minister did not need to introduce a 15% increase in the rates for 24-25. The 4% increase that the Assembly ultimately agreed provides approximately $31 million of additional revenue in 24-25, and if that's maintained also in 25-26. An assessment of how the Executive will meet the condition of the financial package for the $113 million is now included in the scope of the Sustainability Plan, which is to be published in August. There will be further engagement with departments and the Treasury as part of the development of that plan. The Executive has recognised the need for transformation and reform, including the need to look at options to deliver efficiencies, generate revenue, enhance borrowing powers and explore the potential for more fiscal powers. As well as the Budget Sustainability Plan, work will be progressed towards agreeing a final fiscal framework, which will be central to ensuring the Executive has the financial tools and necessary taxation levers to deliver sustainable public finances and services.
So Sustainability Plan, August?
August, yes.
August, yeah. So the Sustainability Plan is separate from the work of the PSTB, or it is related to or how is it related?
It's a separate piece of work, but there will be interrelationships between the two. I think all of the strands will have a certain degree of crossover in them, but the Budget Sustainability Plan is a separate piece of work, and it's going to be taken forward by my directorate in PSD, with the Public Sector Transformation Board being sort of TO and Tony Simpson's SPAR.
That's not technically in your word, the PSTB?
No,
okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Leading on that one.
Go ahead.
No, that was all I had to say on that. It's
okay.
sort of open for questions or anything we can cover.
Thank you very much. Members, obviously, as always, indicate should you wish to come in. So thank you for that, Joanne. We discussed revenue raising a lot since we came back. When we first came back, there's a little bit of, not I have to say with the officials in fairness, but with some of us politicians, there was a little bit of what, who, what, where, revenue raising? Who said revenue raising? I didn't say revenue raising, and it is now clear that the Executive did agree to raise revenue, in fact £113 million of it. But so we're clear, 113 million is all that is agreed to be raised over 2 years, and that's what has to be raised. So am I right in saying 60 of that has been raised effectively already by the rates increase this year, which is obviously recurring, so that's another 30 this year, 30 next year, that's 60, so there's 53 or something outstanding.
Well, firstly, I would say that the Executive didn't agree the financial package as such. That was Treasury's financial package, so it wasn't agreed. But the 113 million was a condition of the financial package that the Treasury put forward. In terms of the rates, it's 113 million over 2 years. So the 30 million by 25-26 we'll have got to a total of 113 million. So the 30 million this year will score as 30 million against that, not 60. But
Indeed,
it's 30 million again next year, as long as there's no reductions in the rates, and then if there's any further increases, they add on to that as well.
But do you add on, but to get to the 130, you do add on next year's 30, to get to 113, you add on No. Oh, okay.
It's 30 towards the 113, so it's now 113 million from 25-26, so the 30 that's raised from the regional rates increase this year will be 30 towards that. So it's spread over 2 years. We don't have to get to 113 million this year. We only have to do something this year, and we've done something with the 30 million. And then by the time we get to 25-26, it'll be a total of 113.
Okay, so still over 80 then to go?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was a little bit less than that. Okay. In terms of the responses, 14 responses isn't that many?
No, it's not. They were quite comprehensive responses, and I would say that the individual consultations that departments ran would have got more responses from interested bodies, whereas ours was the overarching one.
What was the most interesting response in relation to what should be done, what services should be stopped? Did anyone offer any genuinely interesting response?
I wouldn't like to comment on individual responses. It wouldn't be fair to those people who did, but I don't think there was anything, I suppose, particularly pointing out things that should be stopped or areas where revenue should be raised. There was lots of concerns about underfunding of public services, about the underfunding of the Executive in general and the need for a fiscal floor. There wasn't much support for revenue raising, though those who did were very clear that it should, lower income families should be protected, and it should be those middle or higher income earners where it should go. So I suppose there was nothing entirely unexpected in it. The responses were very comprehensive and certainly made interesting reading, but I don't think there was anything very new that we would have said we were surprised to have
Sounds like
received.
the specific consultation was, with a great respect to the respondents, not that useful in terms of policy making for the new Executive.
Well, it's useful to get those opinions and those views from everybody, as it always is, and there are things in it that we will wish to take forward.
It's a very diplomatic way of putting it, but it doesn't sound like it was particularly transformationally insightful in terms of policy making. Those people, that's not to demean or diminish those opinions that were shared. I'm sure some of them were political parties who gave their response, but these aren't, I presume, top of the inbox when it comes to deciding how you, for example, make up this remaining 80 million, or how you might go about, for example, the transformation or sustainability plans.
They wouldn't have given lists of things. Here are the things we are going to do, but they help inform because they give an important feel for what interested groups feel should be the focus of the Executive going forward, and the concerns that they have. So it's not nobody provided a list of here's what you should do this instead of that. What they did was give us a feel for the general feeling out there and areas of concern that need to be considered whenever the Executive's making any decisions.
Is there a general sense that the conversation around revenue raising has slightly gotten away from the depth of the problem in relation to public services? Because I am someone who supports the idea of more fiscal powers for Northern Ireland, and I also think it is definitely worth looking at new areas of revenue raising. But isn't it the case that the way we are funded ultimately means that there are relatively limited powers to raise new revenue, and the volume of revenue raising, as I think we can say, we just heard from LPS in terms of some of the rates reliefs, would not be sufficient to be genuinely transformational in terms of public service delivery. So is there a bit of a job to be done in terms of a bit of a reality check for people in terms of what revenue raising can actually achieve?
Yes, I think that's absolutely clear. And even in our financial context document, it did point out it's not all about revenue raising. There are efficiencies, there are doing things differently, there's transformation, there's the need to be properly funded. There are a whole range of things, and I think that's what the executive has indicated wants to look at. Revenue raising in and of itself would not solve all the problems. There needs to be a range of things, and it needs to be looked at more holistically than that.
Okay. It's probably worth saying that I think if you did even all the revenue, including all the maximalist kind of water charges, prescription charges, everything, it would probably just about plug or would it even plug the bids that came in for 24-25?
I would say it's debatable whether it would even plug it, and certainly there's a lot of things in there that you wouldn't wish to do. You have to be very cognizant of the impact that it has on
they wouldn't
vulnerable.
necessarily be collectible anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, happy to bring in members. So Dan Forsyth, Deputy Chair.
Yep, thanks very much, and thanks for briefing us on this today. I do think that it's very useful to see the returns because you do have that evidence base. You aren't going out looking for people to necessarily write the script of what you're going to do or take it forward, but it is good to have that evidence base. I just wondered, have you got any sort of estimated timeline or plans for anything in the short term coming out of it?
Not so much as coming out of the consultation. I mean, our focus, I suppose, in the short term will be on that budget sustainability plan by August, but even with that will not be the end of it. It's not publish a budget sustainability plan, job done. There's a longer piece of work to be done there with the executive, looking at how we can make our finances more sustainable in the longer term. The revenue raising consultations, to say, it was directed by the Secretary of State, so came through that lens. It is very helpful, as you've said, to see the responses and see the feeling out there on that, but there's a bigger piece of work to be done, and I say immediate focus on this budget sustainability, but a longer term piece of work, I would say, to come out of that as well.
Oh, absolutely, and I haven't been, involved in the process of this before, relatively newly elected, and I just wonder, would this plan or how it progresses be brought regularly to this committee?
Well, we need to say, this will sound strange considering it's due for August, but relatively early days of the plan. So we've agreed with Treasury the scope of the plan as was set out in the interim fiscal framework. We are setting up a team within PSD to look at that. The grade 5 only took up post on Monday. So we need to go through that, and we will need to then within that plan different consultations and whatever engagement we're going to have. And yes, I mean, the committee will have a role, and it would be helpful to hear from the committee any thoughts or views that you may have that would feed into that as well. So we're be very keen to take views on that.
Well, that's great, John. I know you're here all the time, but we would really welcome that as a committee. Thank you.
Steve Aiken.
Yeah, thanks very much today, John. Good to hear from you again. Do you feel with the discussions about the fact that there's an election going on, there will be a new autumn statement / budget. We still haven't had the result of the monitoring round, so there's still, we don't know whether it's 250 million pounds slushing around coming in to do and the rest of it. Do you sense that the foot's come off the pedal and the pressure to look at revenue raising has been diminished? Or are we in a situation where the work that has been done is actually going to inform the fact? Because, if we look historically, we've been chasing a black hole of about £500 million for the last decade. We've never managed to catch up. Is there any realisation that there is an opportunity potentially here to actually fill that gap? Because, lots of discussions about where we're going to have the fiscal floor and the rest of it. We've already had evidence from the Fiscal Council that says their independent indication that it's more than 124 now. It might be 125 or 126. So actually hoping for a change in the fiscal floor might not actually get us where we are. So is the pressure still on? First question. And the second question is, bearing in mind everything that's likely to happen between now, new government getting settled in, budget process, all the rest of it, and fixing in the monitoring rounds, when are we realistically going to see a plan?
Okay, firstly, yes, the pressure is still on. It's not just focused at revenue raising, it's that wider sustainability piece. So you will see a plan. It has to be published by August. That's a condition of the financial package, and we will be working towards that at pace to do that. It's not just about revenue raising, it's about looking at all those things. Efficiencies, what you're doing, what you stop doing, what you can do better, how we get more powers in to help us do that. So it's the bigger piece. The pressure is very much still on that. I suppose the monitoring rounds, etc. Yes, the election has sort of put a bit of a a delay on things. We don't have the confirmation of the money from the Westminster main estimates yet because they didn't get through before Parliament was prorogued. So there is a bit of uncertainty around that, but I think we'll still move forward in that. So we're progressing in the normal way, and certainly the foot hasn't been taken off the pedal on any of it.
Yeah. Have we had any indication on the sort of the June month, the estimates yet? Any sort of, has Treasury given you even a sort of, here you are, Joanne, this is roughly what you should be thinking about?
Because there may be a new government, Treasury, the plans that had been in place before, which we talked about the 200 million potentially around, they will not know themselves whether those are still what is going to happen, because a new government can make different decisions, so we won't know. What I would say is I think we will know quickly, relatively quickly after the election, because Whitehall departments will also be looking for that certainty. But at the minute, in the period, the pre-election period, there is that uncertainty. We don't know for sure.
Okay. Philip Brett?
How much did the consultation cost the department to carry out, do you know, John?
I don't have a cost for that, but it would have been minimal. I'm looking to see if anybody else, I mean, it would have been minimal. We produced the documents ourselves. We did everything sort of, we don't have the budget to be spending lots of money on this. And, so you're looking at the people that read all the responses, if that answers your question.
Similar with the LPS there, one wouldn't have been a huge cost either. No.
I mean, we had one sort of joint event with LPS and ourselves run in the pavilion in the Stormont Estate, so it was all very low key.
Okay, you happy enough, Phil? Paul Free?
Just on the back of Steve's questions then, can you tell us, Joanne, how much is actually locked in to the June monitoring rounds?
No.
You can't give us any?
I cannot. Decisions are still to be made on the June monitoring round. Our Minister has still...
No, sorry, I don't mean...
I know you mean money available.
So the money available to distribute, can you give us at the minute? Because a number of weeks ago, it was topping up towards $250 million. So, and notwithstanding the election was called, I think, that same day. So how much at the minute is locked in that you are sure that you're going to be able to distribute for June monitoring?
At the moment, 65 million would be the definite, but we would expect more from Westminster main estimates, but as I was saying, those haven't been confirmed yet.
Yeah, so are main estimates going to come before June monitoring?
That depends on the timing of June monitoring, and I'm not aware when an executive meeting is being scheduled for that. We could make some assumptions around it, but if you're asking me about money that is definitely confirmed, it would be that 65 million. There may be assumptions that are made. Treasury had given us indications before, but that hadn't been introduced in Parliament. I think, as I said the last time I was here, until it goes through Parliament, those numbers are not definite, but we had rough indications. That may change. There could be some assumptions made. That will be a matter for the Finance Minister and the Executive.
So surely you would expect June monitoring round to happen in June. Is there danger that a monitoring round would be halted?
The timing has to be agreed for the monitoring rounds. While we call them a June monitoring round, the timing can vary just depending on what's happening at the time. We generally have 3 monitoring rounds a year. We would like one before summer recess. But the timing, obviously, the pre-election period has impacted on that, so timing has to be confirmed.
So there's 2 options here for the Finance Minister. Either distribute in June the money that you're sure of, or delay in order to get the wider, bigger package.
There's probably more than 2 options for the Finance Minister, and it'd be for the Finance Minister and the executive colleagues to make those decisions. You could distribute the money that you're sure of, you could make assumptions based on what you know, or you could delay, but there are risks of delaying too long.
Yes.
I mean, obviously there are departments waiting for certainty over the money, so those are all things that would need to be considered.
It strikes me that you would be better having a June monitoring round with the less money, because there would be no point having a September monitoring round and an October monitoring round.
I would say that yes, there should be something before September. That would be my personal view. Other factors will need to be taken into account. I don't think that we would be waiting for September for confirmation of the main estimates money from Treasury, but I mean all of those things remain, I suppose, up in the air.
And have you any sort of specific date with regards to the main estimates?
No, because Treasury themselves won't know until the new government is in place.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just check on that? Thanks, Paul. And obviously, anyone else can indicate should you wish to come in. Owen will come in a second. just want, I'm understanding it correctly. I thought the Minister had said, but this may be wrong, I thought she'd said in the Chamber that her intention was to do a June monitoring round on the basis of indications you had already received. So is that not the case now? She did that.
That is what I was saying when we
sorry.
talked about options. You can go with the money that's there, or you can make assumptions. So that would be the route of making assumptions.
I thought she had said she wanted to do that.
And as far as I know, that would be the intention.
And when will that happen? And so when will that be?
Well, it depends when an executive meeting is scheduled. I don't know that yet.
Executive have to meet. So is there a June monitoring paper that's drafted and ready to go, which has allocations suggested?
Not at this moment, because we are working through the departmental returns.
Okay, so there is no June monitoring round that's ready to be signed off by an executive. There are returns and a view of what.
It would never have been intended to go. This would be too early. Even if the election hadn't been called, it would have been towards the end of June. So at this point, we wouldn't expect a June monitoring paper to be ready. We are working through returns.
Aren't there any? Are there any restrictions in terms of the pre-election period? Obviously, there are. Would it be possible, for example, to give assurances to departments of what their headroom is without going formally for a monitoring round, which obviously may violate some of the pre-election restrictions?
Well, you couldn't give indications on headroom because it's the executive makes decisions on the allocation. So Finance Minister herself couldn't give any indication on headroom. It's for the executive to decide those allocations.
What I'm saying is like how much accounting officers. We know that obviously in the past, I'm not sort of trying to get into nod and wink territory here, but if accounting officers know that the only thing that's stopping a monitoring round, which will have a specific increased amount of money, and the only thing that's stopping it is the fact of a UK election and then main estimates, is there not an argument for doing it after that? And like, what are the particular risks of waiting a fortnight, as it were?
I suppose it depends how long it takes for Treasury to. It depends how long it takes for Treasury to confirm the funding. Would it be a week? Would it be a fortnight? Would it be longer? We don't know. So we will have to make decisions based on what we know at this point in time, and that will be for the Finance Minister and the Executive colleagues to decide.
But the thing that you would be waiting for wouldn't just be for the Treasury to confirm. It would be for the election to be out of the way, so there's no question of PERDA being violated.
Well, again, that would come down into interpretation of the pre-election guidance.
Yeah. Have you asked the TO for an opinion on that?
Well, I think that would be a matter for the Finance Minister and the Executive to consider. The pre-election guidance for that.
Has she asked for advice from officials on the pre-election?
Well, it's not
period?
for me to discuss what advice my minister has not asked me for.
Okay, I appreciate your discretion in that regard. Even if I wish you were less discreet, but she would obviously have to ask her officials for advice on that. And would it be the head of the civil service or TO who would theoretically give a view? Would they theoretically have the ability to say yay or nay?
Well, TO issue the guidance for officials. I don't know who would issue the guidance for the executive or for ministers. TO issue the guidance for officials.
But I mean, if the guidance is that publishing a June monitoring round is not consistent with the pre-election guidance, then officials can't publish it. It doesn't really matter when officials.
Officials don't publish it. Officials provide advice to the ministers and to the executive.
Well,
so, I mean, as with any guidance, open to interpretation, and I don't think it's for me to comment on the interpretation of the guidance.
Sure, but I mean, it is true to say that in a very yes, it's agreed by the executive, but the executive don't literally sit down and write the written ministerial statement and email it to the business office here and send it to the media. Anyway, I think we're probably getting into semantics, but Owen Tennyson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to bring us back to the briefing that's actually in front of us. Just in relation to, you mentioned the sustainability plan, Joanne, which is scheduled for August. In the interim fiscal framework, I know the language around that plan is quite careful in terms of what's been agreed, and talks about looking at options for delivering revenue generation. can we conclude then that when the sustainability plan is published in August, that there will be decisions on revenue raising from the Minister of Finance, or is there a slightly different timeline in terms of when we're expecting decisions?
I suppose that's still up for discussion with the Treasury and what they expect to see in it and what we're in a position to do. We will probably set out a direction of travel rather than firm decisions, I would imagine, given that the sustainability plan will be published in August and the actual requirement is to have that 113 million from 25-26. There may remain some decisions to be taken. For example, decisions on regional rates increases in 25-26 will probably be taken as part of the budget process, which won't have concluded or probably even commenced by August. So I think it'll set a direction of travel rather than a definitive position.
Okay, and I appreciate it's not kind of your direct responsibility, but in relation to the previous briefing that we had in terms of rates, is there a timeline in terms of when we're expecting any decisions around those reliefs?
I wouldn't honestly know. Sharon would be the best person to answer that.
That's no worries. And just final question, in terms of it talks about a process to deliver a balanced budget following completion of the next spending review. Now, given that there's so many uncertainties there and negotiations are ongoing around the fiscal framework, which will have a big impact, I presume that is literally just setting out these are the things that we would consider and this is what we would aspire to see in terms of funding formula and those things. Yeah,
it will be that sort of things. We have still further discussions to have with Treasury and that, and unfortunately that has been impacted by the pre-election period because Treasury are not able to engage with us the same way. But yes, it was. I would see it as setting out more of the how do we get there, and here are the things that we'll be considering, as opposed to, as you say, there's still a lot of decisions and a lot of discussions to be had, but it'll set out a direction of travel.
And so that's agreed then, setting out the process is sufficient in order to meet the conditions of the financial package. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I should say I think the June monitoring round is very relevant to what we're discussing. Though we am very keen that people have the opportunity to ask questions about the financial context for revenue raising too. Just on the sustainability plan, so August is the deadline. That means the 31st of August at midnight. But
I think it is published in August. We have been impacted by the Treasury, the pre-election period. I'm just putting that out there. But yes, we are aiming for August, and no reason to think it wouldn't be.
Treasury pre-election period. Okay. I don't want to get back into the pre-election period.
He's going to whip out a piece of paper now in September, don't you? Where was it?
I think people have undue expectations of my ability to use props. Just on the sustainability, would it be possible for us to get a written update, respecting that there may be specific areas where the department does not want, or the minister does not want to indicate? It would be helpful to have for us as a committee to have a written update on where that work is, if not an oral one. Now, I understand that you may want to wait until it's published to do an oral briefing, but if it's possible for us to get a written update, that would be helpful.
I would say at this point there's probably not a lot of detail to do a written update on, but I think when we have got to that stage, yes, certainly we'd provide a written update and an oral update. I'm just pointing to, we have obviously been progressing work on it because, as you've seen, we've agreed the scope of it and there's thinking and working on, but the dedicated team is only just being set up now. Grade 5 took up post on Monday, so we want to give him a chance to get bedded in on that.
And on this, will the sustainability plan include options for or the consideration of longer term revenue raising, the kind of things that was in there were responses to the Fiscal Commission report?
Well, it's not a requirement of the scope of it. I think, again, you're asking me to talk about something that is not that far developed at the moment. Okay. You've seen the scope and we will cover what is in the scope. My own view is that it will probably set a direction of travel and there will be more work to be done, and that will look at a range of issues on how we make our finances more sustainable. It will certainly not just be about a list of revenue raising options. It is about efficiencies. It is about making sure we're properly funded. So there's all of those things. I mean, if you think of it, before we can look at revenue raising and asking people to pay more, we need to make sure we're doing things as efficiently as possible. So that will be part of it as well.
And finally, for me, are there any further indications that from the Treasury going to do a CSR? They haven't said. I know, they will have private conversations. They might have had indications from opposition politicians about whether that would be a totally reasonable thing for them to get an indicative. Yeah. That, you haven't heard anything.
At this point, no. What Treasury communicated to us is they don't know yet. Calling the election early, I think, puts a multi-year spending review back in the realms of possibility to do in the autumn, but they could decide to do a 1 year followed by a multi-year the next year, just depending on timelines. And Treasury, I'm not getting anything they're hiding anything from us, but certainly at the moment they're saying that both options are on the table and they won't know until a new government comes in.
Yeah, we small one, just on the June monitoring round again. I take it you have invited departments to make bids for June 1?
We have bids in from departments, and we are working through those at the moment with a view to preparing a paper to go to the Finance Minister. So we're at that stage, and that's where we would normally be at this stage. We would be in the preparing a paper for the Finance Minister to consider before she then brings it to the Executive.
Okay,
so that work is ongoing, so we're ready to go.
Okay.
Very good. No other members have indicated that they wish to ask questions, so I think at that stage we will. I think the follow-up action we've agreed is around keeping in touch on various issues, including whenever there is more information on sustainability and indeed obviously June monitoring, as and when that happens before or after the election. Okay, but we're going to release, I think, Kerry and Marianne
and keep
at this point. And keep you. Apologies, Joanne. Yes, you're not eligible for parole yet. Just while we're doing changeover, there are a couple of matters arising from our previous closed session, which I'm just going to put on the record for the purposes of committee minutes. We had agreed in our closed briefing with Land and Property Services that we would get additional briefing from them on COVID-related payments, I believe, grants.
Well, that was written.
That was written, yes. Yeah. And similarly, I said that I would be engaging with them on the question of either ratings of certain premises on or around what is now called the Tribeca project in central Belfast on North Street, Rosemary Street and elsewhere to get some information on that. So that's just for the purpose of the record. I think, are we waiting? Yes, I think Gillian's joining us presently.
Gillian's, yeah. That's...
Hi, Gillian. Okay. Members, page 182 of your meeting pack is a clerk's memo, and at page 185 of the meeting pack is a background paper on city and region growth deals, and that will act as a briefing paper for this session. So we welcome the meeting again. Joanne, thank you for staying with us, and Gillian Gilmore, who is Director, of Public Spending Directorate at the Department. Welcome, Gillian. So specifically on city and region growth deals, we'd invite one or both of you to make an opening statement.
I'm going to ask Gillian to make the opening statement. She's our DOF's head of city and growth deals, so no better person to tell you about it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, John. Yeah, thank you, Chair, Deputy Chair, Committee members for the time today to brief you on the City and Growth Deals Initiative. You had received the background paper that you referred to, Chair, just last month, and I'll largely base this briefing on it, just to give you a bit of an overview, and Joanne and I then are happy to take any questions. So the City and Growth Deals £1.3 billion capital investment is made up of £717 million from the Executive and £617 million from the UK Government, and that includes City Deal funding, Inclusive Future Fund and the Complementary Fund. And then on top of that, the deal partners, so councils, universities, colleges, etc., they'll contribute significant amounts of funding to each deal. And the aim then is that the deals will leverage additional private sector investments. So City and Growth Deals is a UKG policy, and the amounts in the regions were chosen by UKG. The anticipated time frame for the investment is around 10 to 20 years. And each of the deals are developed separately, and they'll have a number of projects within each deal. We have ongoing discussions between the deals on complementarity and collaboration. So you'll probably be aware there are 4 City and Growth Deals in Northern Ireland. The Belfast Region City Deal, that's 700 million. The Derry City and Strabane District Council City Deal, it's 210 million, and that includes 110 million of Inclusive Future Fund. The Causeway Coast and Glens Growth Deal is 72 million, and the Mid-South West Growth Deal is 252 million, and those funds it's an equal contribution from the Executive and UK Government. So in May 2020, the Executive agreed to the City and Growth Deals Initiative. This was agreeing to match funds the funding that the UKG was putting in, and then agreeing to the broad policy. And alongside this, the Executive then created a £100 million complementary fund, and that was to top up the other 3 deals as Derry and Strabane was in receipt of Inclusive Future Fund. So Across all 4 deals, there's around 50 odd projects, and they range from cutting edge innovation centres, research facilities, digital transformation projects, developments in local infrastructure, some tourism offerings, and regeneration of a number of different cities and towns. And at the heart of each of the deals will be inclusivity, sustainability, and employability. The executive contribution it'll fund projects under infrastructure, tourism, regen, and the UKG contribution specifically for digital and innovation projects. So you'll be aware of the number of benefits that this substantive investment will bring, and really should support significant shifts in a number of our indicators, improving regional balance, creating employment opportunities, and increasing productivity. The specific benefits for each of the projects is explored at outline, business case and full business case stage. And then they can be collated at the deal level. And then obviously the DOF's oversight role, we'll be able to look at all of the benefits across all of the 4 deals to really assess, what this investment has done. So really important to note that city and growth deals are long-term capital investment packages. So I think it mentioned earlier, around 10 to 20 years of a time frame. There is a significant amount of really important and detailed work that needs to be done in developing and improving the different business cases, and there's a number of different stakeholders involved. And I know sometimes there's a perception of delay. The funding can be announced and then it feels like there's a gap because people aren't seeing anything happening just yet. But I think that's another reason why we all really need to acknowledge the time frame involved and help to manage the expectations. These really are long-term initiatives. So just wanted to clarify then the DOF role in all of this. So we really have an oversight role, so overseeing the funding and the governance. And this is a central function to manage the funding flows, to drive progress and try and ensure consistency across NICS where we possibly can. The Finance Minister reports on and brings recommendations regarding city and growth deals to the Executive, and it's the Finance Minister that's the Minister that would sign the different milestone documents on behalf of the Executive. So that's the heads of terms and the deal signing. The DOF Permanent Secretary is the senior responsible owner for NICS. It's a little bit different to the traditional SRO role, and in the governance and funding arrangements, and it was in the annex to your briefing paper you got last month. It's explained because it isn't quite the traditional SRO role. DOF officials then, Joanne and myself, we chair the different central government governance groups, and there's a delivery board, oversight group and working group.
It's different, sorry Gillian, it's different in the sense that, is it different because the Perm Sec of the DOF is not, it's not their direct reports who are delivering the deals? That's why it's different.
They're not delivering the deals or accountable for the funding, so it's the different accountable departments that would be accountable for the different projects, the likes of economy, communities, etc. So it's more of an oversight role and a reporting role, and then ensuring that the relevant funding is available and that the governance is doing what we'd agreed that it would do. And was that
that was a Northern Ireland specific thing that was agreed because? Historically, some of the city deals were literally agreed between the Treasury and Greater Manchester, for the sake of argument, or Liverpool, and we just don't have those.
Exactly, it's entirely different setup. So, yeah. and the local authorities across the water would have much different, different barriers and different things that they can do that our councils don't. So yes, you're absolutely right. That's why. So progress. We have had a few positive milestones in recent years. There's been really good progress happening on the Belfast Region City deal. It is in delivery phase. There are 12 legally binding contracts for funding, and that actually represents 348.9 million. So you're looking at half of the central government funding already is committed through legally binding contracts. And there's another 2 contracts due at least in the next couple of months. There have been some of the projects have planning permission in the Belfast Region City deal, and construction has already started on AMIC, that's the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Centre in Newtonabbey. The Derry City and Strabane District Council City deal is preparing to sign the deal late summer 2024, so that's not too far away. The deal signing stage is where then they'll be able to have the contracts in place and funding will begin to flow. So that's a really significant milestone. Causeway Coast and Glens growth deal signed heads of terms in April this year, and the Mid-South West growth deal is working towards signing its heads of terms in autumn this year.
Mid-South West is signing its terms of it's the furthest back, or it's the least developed. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important to note as well the difference in the deals. So Belfast Region has 6 different councils. Derry and Strabane and Causeway are just single council,
yeah. And
Mid-South West 3. So you have more stakeholders involved, and, and you're trying to figure out, it's a little bit more complex, I suppose. So I just wanted to note as well the excellent and extensive engagement that we have across the City and Growth Deals network and between NICS departments across the deals, with departments and deals, and as well with UK government. And I think this is really important. We've worked really hard to get to that stage, and collaboration and partnership is going to be very key to the success of this initiative. Finally, on funding. Up to the end of 23-24, £9.1 million has been drawn down, and that was primarily by the Belfast Region City deal. It's the only deal that's signed.
Up to the end of the financial year we've just left.
Yes.
Just under 10 million, 9 million was drawn down for the entirety of Northern Ireland for city and growth deals.
The Belfast
out of Belfast Region, but were any other drawn down? Derry must have no.
There was. I can get you the exact figure. There was a small amount of funding for the Maritime Museum in Derry, and it was under the Inclusive Future Fund.
So of the 700 million committed, I'm not using this as not a gotcha, but it's just to get the numbers right.
Yes.
700 million committed, 9 has so far been drawn down. Okay, that's helpful.
Yes. And anticipated spend then for this financial year is 56.8, so you'll see the difference. So it's that time lag of getting the business cases approved, the contracts for funding in place. So, and really from now on, that is going to ramp up Belfast in delivery. And as I say, we're just about to getting ready to sign the Derry and Strabane deal.
So the Belfast is the only one that's actually signed in full. Derry is about to sign. Causeway Coast and Glen will sign at some point in the next year or two, maybe, or will that be a bit more? You don't know.
18 to 24 months.
Okay.
Now, they had signed, so the heads of terms is after they have the strategic outline business cases, they have all of those for the different projects, and now they'll work on the outline business case, which is the real detailed one. They have already, they've hit the ground running with that. They've already terms of reference for all those OBCs, and they're really planning to make this happen. And as I say, Mid-South West, we're just following a few months behind then. Causeway Coast and Glens getting their heads of terms.
What was the initial, so when, it's now a decade ago nearly, I think, whenever it was first mooted that Northern Ireland would start to create, so I think, am I right in saying that, was the Derry one first? No, or Belfast was first? Yeah. Belfast, then Derry, and then the other two kind of came along afterwards. But they were first signed, mooted in 2015, something like that, 2016?
They might have been mooted very early, but I think the Belfast one, Gillian, correct me if I'm wrong, was the heads of terms were signed in 2019.
Mm-hmm. March 2019.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Had you, that's anything else?
Questions?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Well, members, please, as always, do indicate further questions. This is a really important area. Just on in terms of the specifics around the funding, obviously we're talking about a big number in terms of 700 million, which is 700 million is the total. That's a 350 million, is that right, commitment from the executive, 350 from UKG, and that is over. Is there no deadline, or is it just depending on when the money's spent and the things are completed?
The original anticipated profile was around 15 years. Treasury had set that out on a flat profile, which really isn't how these capital projects work.
Flat as in it's just like a same amount of money every year, which is a bit absurd.
23.8 million or something every year.
Was that just for the purposes of scoring it, or was there any they had no realistic expectation that was how money was going to be drawn down, surely?
Well, if Gillian goes on, that was the initial, what they'd set out initially, but Gillian has been engaging extensively with Treasury, so if you want to sort of set out where we are.
The original anticipation was that we would receive that amount every year from Treasury, and then the executive would work on the risks. But whenever we'd started to see the profiles, so there's no capital projects going to have the same spend over 15 odd years, and particularly, for the Belfast Region City deal, there was a 4 or 5 year where there was real high spend, and we realised we couldn't actually take that risk on. So we'd been working with Treasury and then renegotiated with them that we could re-profile, but we're trying to wait to the stage where more, so you'd said earlier, 9 million to date drawn down. We want to see after this year, when there's a higher sum of money has been drawn down, how it's starting to look then, and is that actually how it's going to be. So we've agreed with Treasury, we'll go back around autumn this year and look at a profile for Belfast, and then the same agreement was that for every deal we'll go to them maybe 18 months to 24 months after deal signing, and that's when we'll put the profile. Now, they weren't entirely closed to maybe looking at that again, but it would have to tie into a spending review.
Okay, so but the money is ring fenced, is that right? So and so it's not, so anyone who's watching, this is not new money that you have to find, that the executive has to find every year. You are ring fencing this as you go.
We ring fence it as you go. So the money from Treasury will come forward on a ring fence basis and will be spent on that. And as Gillian says, she'll agree that the profiles of that with the Treasury. The executive's contribution will be a first call on their capital DEL in any year. So what we will also have to do is work with the deal partners to sort of smooth any spikes and to try to make that as manageable as possible. But it's not that we're setting aside a chunk of money and it's sitting there. We will take it out of each year's budget. It should have first call on that, and we will work with the deal partners to make sure that that's as affordable as possible.
Okay, so you're anticipating, I think you said about 50 million in 24-25, if I got that right? So that's obviously a massive jump. That's by far the biggest amount that's ever been drawn down. Is most of that will be going to Belfast, I would think. And I should say, just in case anybody, because we get accused of being Belfast centric, the Belfast region goes from Ballymena to Crossmaglen, so it's not like it's not just Belfast.
6 different council areas. It's massive.
Indeed, yeah. So what will that be spent on this year? What type of thing?
So the overall for Belfast, it's 48 million, and there are around 17 projects in total. So Belfast Region City Deal has around 22 projects, so actually the majority of the projects will be in receipt of funding. Some
all this year, or is that
this year? Yeah. So some big numbers are on Studio Ulster and Amic that I mentioned earlier. So Amic's a big construction build, and that's started already. And then Studio Ulster is primarily it's kit. It's real high tech kit for the screen and media sector. So really exciting.
Good. Okay, and then I suppose final question from me is around the devolved piece generally. Like, was this when a lot of this was started? It was tied into the devolving powers, particularly regeneration powers, to places like the north of England. Is there any thinking going on about how this ties into what we were discussing in the last session? Things like greater devolution of fiscal powers, or in the sense that this is the corollary across the water was kind of you're getting money to take more responsibility and have a bit more look, and that was part of the insight, which is local powered decision makers are better placed to make decisions about regeneration and growth than necessarily somebody sitting in London or even in Belfast. So I'm just wondering if there's any thinking about that, because it doesn't appear like our city and region growth aren't connected to more devolution at all, really. There's no particular...
No, there's no direct link in that way to more devolution, but what they are is place-based, and Gillian might want to say a bit more to it. But so they're place-based as in the projects are chosen by the deal partners, not by central government. In some cases, what the partners may think will not be necessarily what a department had planned to do. So that's where it becomes place-based, is because it is those deal partners who are putting forward the proposals to central government to say, this is what our region needs, this is what we want to do.
Anyone who's coming through Diane Forsyth, and then Paul, and then anyone else indicate. We are just at quorum, by the way, so if anyone gets up and leaves, we have a problem.
Please don't.
Vicky, and thank you for the update on this. And it's great to hear how the city and regional growth deals are progressing. It's something that we in the DUP are very proud of, to have helped secure the financial delivery of this through confidence and supply. To see £1.3 billion boost right across Northern Ireland's fantastic. And off that, as you said, 617 million is additional money from the UK government that we wouldn't have got otherwise. Because time has passed and quite a lot, and a number of these projects and costs have gone up, do you feel that there's a risk that any of this 617 million will not be able to be delivered?
Not necessarily delivered, but some of the projects, there are risks that we're constantly monitoring in the deals as well, because costs have gone up. You're absolutely right. So on occasion, we may need to look at the outcomes that were intended at the very start, because your money doesn't go as far as it did a good few years ago. We've also had a significant increase in the funding that's come from some of the project promoters and the deal partners as well. So councils are adding into this, universities are adding as well. So that's a constant battle really to look at that. But through the business case process as well, we're obviously looking at affordability. So you're right, it is a risk, and it's something that just needs constant monitoring.
Thank you. And do you know, will these deals be featuring in the programme for government as it's developing going forward, to be given a priority there?
We're not that involved in the programme for government work, but I wouldn't necessarily see them having to be in the programme for government. The executive has committed to city and growth deals. They already have a priority, so the executive has committed to that match funding.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul Frew.
Yes, thank you. And can I just acknowledge, Chair, that you have recognised that the city deal is wider than Belfast, and there is a world beyond Sandyknows, which is really good to hear. All joking aside, have central government monitored what is the experiment of actually getting different organisations, different councils together to actually prioritise projects? This has been arduous the whole way through, trying to get agreement, trying to get interests to swim in the right direction, in the same direction. So has there been learning from this approach as to how we could do things in the future with regards joined up thinking and funding? Has it been worth it, I suppose, with regards to the time, is the first question.
You can take that, or you?
Yeah, I'll go ahead first. Look, it hasn't been without its challenges, and it is a completely new way of working for all of us. I think as the years have gone on, we've really made a lot of improvements and really tried to streamline some of the processes as well, and even the staggering effect of the different deals. The other deals are learning from Belfast, and we have an awful lot of engagement and even cross-deal working groups where we're looking at specific issues, and a lessons learned document is updated on a 6-monthly basis to try and capture, even specifics around business case and procurement and things like that. So we really are trying to work on processes and systems, but the relationships have really developed, and I think that's widely commented upon in the City and Growth Deals Network, and something we really try to make sure that we're building on and learning from. I'm not sure, do you want to do anything else?
No, Gillian, you covered that. I mean, there is a lot of work goes into managing those relationships, and Gillian leads in that, and I think they are evolving and they are improving, and I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned for other things where we can work in a similar collaborative way.
To me it strikes me that in order for this to work, people do have to leave their parochial hat aside and see what best affects a region as opposed to a territory or a certain borough, and to me that's been a healthy process, albeit challenging. So I actually have sort of watched with interest as this has evolved over the years, and that has taken time, and that's not a criticism. It's just taken time, and so you can imagine that the spend will be pushed back, if you like, albeit to the end of the project. You did say that most of these schemes, or some of these schemes, are designed to be a 10-20 year rollout. I can understand that, and sort of needs to be that. But with that comes inflationary pressure. And the last thing you'd want is for a lot of this not to materialise because of that inflationary pressure. So I suppose what I'm asking is government aware of that? Is UK government aware of that? And that there may have to be an injection in year 10 in order to keep things going?
Yes, it's always a risk, isn't it, and something that we're very alive to. But through the business case process, and I'm not an economist, but there's been an awful lot of optimism bias put into, so that has been taken account. Things can and do change, so I suppose it's a moving picture. But the measures through that business case process, we're hoping are significant enough.
Right. Okay. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm sure it's not easy, Gillian, dealing with 9 local authorities. Probably easier than, what was it, 26 before, so I suppose you should be grateful that we had the review of public administration. If no other member has indicated they wish to come in, I think it was really useful briefing and helpful for us, because it is the kind of long-term funding stream that we don't, in questioning, usually Joanne and others, about monitoring rounds and budget bills, we do obviously need to keep our eye on longer term strategic pieces. One thing is, does the Strategic Investment Board have any involvement or input in the governance of our, I'm not saying they should, but do they? No.
No, but we do keep in touch with them around the projects, and you know, there'd be quite continuous engagement around updating them on the different capital projects that are coming through. So they're very familiar with what we're doing. And that we really are trying to reach out to a number of different organisations, so you know, trying to increase that awareness, and even trying to get out to businesses as well to make them understand what's coming through the pipeline here. So
great. Okay. Thank you very much. No other members have indicated they want to ask questions, so thank you very much, Gillian and Joanne, for that. Much appreciated. We'll let you get back to more important things. That's extremely helpful. Members, the next item on the agenda is correspondence. There are no items of correspondence, you'll be pleased to hear, this week. Next, after that, the next agenda item is the draft forward work programme, which is at page 232 of the meeting pack. The clerk's going to run through a few points. We obviously only have 3 full sessions left before the summer recess, but quite a lot to do.
Chair, members are going to be very used to this, but we have a significant number of shuffles that have happened since we put the forward work programme in the pack. So we are looking to move some of the sessions, building regulations briefing and public sector transformation briefing. We're changing the date on those if members are agreeable. The Public Sector Transformation Board briefing would now be the 26th of June, with building regulations on the 3rd of July. The oral briefing on the departmental business plan that we had scheduled for next week, there's a problem in scheduling that next week because they're still waiting for departmental board approval. So what we're looking to do is move that out of the 19th and put that into the 3rd of July. We would have looked at the 26th, but the 26th of June is already pretty packed, so 3rd of July would be that one. We have also got the 4th module from our RAISE series on the budget. This one's in year monitoring. So we thought that was pretty timely if we brought that into next week's meeting. Excuse me. So because we've created a space through moving departmental business plan, it means we don't have to start early. So that would be 2 o'clock normal start next week, but closed session with that RAISE module 4 briefing and in-year monitoring. Then we would be looking to still get confirmation from the Executive Office on the Hawks briefing on the 26th of June. As I said before, Hawks have already engaged with us, the Hawks Office have already engaged with us around the date and content, so they're briefed on what the purpose of the session is. We just don't have approval from Executive Office ministers yet. When you bring in officials from another department, there's a process of permissions through the relevant ministers, so we're just waiting for that.
So I'm going to put it on the record now, but we really need to have this briefing before we break up for summer, we have a particular responsibility to, our scrutiny responsibility includes the civil service bit of the Department of Finance's work. They are responsible for next people, HR, all of those things. So this isn't us kind of trying to get the health permanent secretary or the education permanent secretary to come in and brief us. This is someone who's directly relevant, and there are multiple precedents. Previous heads of the civil service have briefed the finance committee. So we just put on the record now that we really, really do need to get a resolution to this, and I think that we will be in touch with, if should we need to, either directly or indirectly, the executive office to ensure that this gets cleared. I'm sure it's no reason to believe it's anything other than just a delay in the system, but we do need to have this briefing. Paul Frew.
Yeah, so maybe I'm lacking in understanding here. Well, again, if you write to the executive office or the office of OFM, DFM, it used to be called. I used to call it the office of Black Hole because nothing ever came out of it. But this would be different, surely, if it was a permanent secretary of the executive office. But this is the head of the civil service.
Yes.
So what is the actual remit of the head of the civil service, and what is the connection between the executive office and the head of the civil service?
I personally don't know, and I don't know. I think we're operating in I think the default is that because they are, technically their office is in the executive office.
Chair, if I can clarify, yes. Because we wrote to the executive office to seek permission. So head of the civil service, while a different role from that of a perm sec, still falls under the executive office. So previously we'd written to Hawks directly, our mistake, and a response, members may recall, came through the executive office from FM and DFM. So that's why we wrote directly to FM and DFM correcting that previous error, because Hawks' office sits within that department. It's what we would do in terms of officials that sit within any department that's not our own. We would always seek permission from the ministers. So in that, it's a normal process. It's just it has taken longer for clearance, and we've, as I say, we're in very regular communication with now the Hawks chief of staff, who assures us that from their end they are still pushing for this. As the chair says, it's a different system in that department, as you've outlined, and things do take that bit longer. However, if members have any ability to intervene to push things along, that would be really helpful.
Although I should say that shouldn't be necessary.
No, it shouldn't be necessary.
I think that we shouldn't be doing things by, there's, with the greatest respect to the clerk, who's making a constructive suggestion, but we don't operate here by,
Yeah. So we have written requesting the presence of the head of civil service. Have we written to ask them what the hold-up is?
No.
I don't think we have, but I think what I would suggest formally is that if we don't have a response by the beginning of next week, that we formally write to the executive office and suggest that we would like this briefing before the summer recess. We think it is extremely important, given all our broad scrutiny responsibilities, including some of the questions that we've raised around RHI findings and implementation of them. So I think that would be my proposal if people are content. If we haven't got a response, and we have been waiting there for several weeks, by the beginning of next week we just register that. But hopefully that won't be necessary. I'm sure it is just process, and in fairness there is a lot on their agenda. Okay. Anybody else have anything else to raise on the forward work programme? Any questions? People are content, we'll put it on the
changes. If members are content with those changes,
including next week's around the raise briefing. Grand. The next item is any other business. So anybody would like to raise any other business?
Yeah, just a couple of things I want to bring back to committee that had been requested previously. I have used as many sources as I can around accelerated passage of the budget bill, and the response has been no one can pin down a budget bill that didn't pass by accelerated passage within reasonable collective memory. The other issue I was looking at, and the reason I was
no one as it can remember a budget bill where people didn't complain about it passing by accelerated passage.
Well, I've looked back at the correspondence, and that is very much the case. The other thing I was looking at, and I had to do this in an informal channel so that I could turn it around quickly, was communicate with colleagues across the other committees on three very specific briefings that I was asking them about budget post allocation, whether or not they'd heard anything around the departmental business plan and June monitoring. Responses have been very mixed, I think in terms of the business plan, not everybody had requested it, and those who have are being told to wait for EQIAs and so on to be done. We have a briefing scheduled. Some departments have already gone ahead, and I think there are some committees may even be briefed on it this week, so there seems to be an inconsistency here on that one. In terms of budget allocation or post allocation, most have got a briefing scheduled. Most are oral. Some are going to be written. Some of the feedback I've had is that they've been really high level and not necessarily with the detail that was required. June monitoring round, most have put in a request for that. Most are being told, which is not uncommon, that they will get a written briefing. Some have already been confirmed that they will get oral briefings, some of which are already happening. Some have even had those. So it's a mixed picture. In terms of the budget and the June monitoring, there seems to be more scheduled for that. Departmental business plan seems to be more lacking. Fewer committees are getting any response on that thus far.
I can appreciate that given the programme for government absence. Okay.
I just, when you're speaking about this, as we're talking about, accelerated passage, getting centralised feedback in terms of this department, I just want to put it back, flag it again, my concern over the Department of Health, and where the Minister, and the new Minister is very publicly saying he won't be imposing cuts in the budget. I just would be very interested as to what the Health Committee have been briefed as to their budget and what it will mean for them to make sure that they are properly equipped and scrutiny has happened there to be able to feed that back to us, because that's my big concern with this in the current circumstance.
Chair, that would to get a formal response, and as I say, the channel I've used, without going into specifics, has been asking clerks if we're looking for specifics about an individual committee, we need to write to that committee and get a formal response. So if members are content to write to the Health Committee...
Is your proposal, Dan, to write to the Health Committee to find out what briefing they've had?
Yeah, I do think we should at least be writing to all committees in advance of this hitting the floor on the 1st and 2nd of July to say what your committee's feeling on this, for us to have an informed position, but specifically on health, given that there's extra risks, in my opinion, there, I think that we should.
We can, Chair, I think we can do formally what I've done informally. Go out to committees tomorrow, which means they can get it into their packs, and then that will hopefully mean they can get clearance through their committee next week, so we will get a response coming out of next week's meetings, that would mean we get turned around before the bill's brought forward, so that's probably about doable.
People are content with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is any other business. Does anybody have any other business they wish to raise? Okay. If not, then next item is date, time and place of the next meeting. The next meeting is here, Wednesday 19th of June, 2 o'clock in room 21. Put the question, the committee is now adjourned. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Committee Room 21. Sound. Committee Room 21. Sound. Committee Room 21. Sound. Committee Room 21. Sound. Committee Room 21. Sound.